Welcome to another episode of Discog Discourse. On this episode, we're going to be and then come back to rank and review them. My name is Nathan, and with me, as always, I have my co hosts Kyle and Jeff. Also joining us is our very special guest this episode, Carson from the Callous Daoboys.
Hello.
A grand entrance right there.
Yes. I don't know what else to say. I listen to the show all the time and I was like, "Oh, I'm positive that Kyle and Jeff say hi," and then neither of them did. So,
We rolled out the red carpet for you. So the stage is yours, actually, the whole episode. Jeff and I are about to drop off. So
okay. Cool.
Yeah.
it will be you talking about the entire discography.
2 hours of me talking about Linkin Park, which is something I already do in everyday life. So that is totally fine by me.
So having a special guest is actually something that we've talked about doing for a while. So we really appreciate you coming on and taking on this experiment with us.
I appreciate you having me on. I believe I pitched myself as a guest, which I normally don't do for podcasts. I normally I'm like, all right, it'll be cool if I get invited on. But this one, I was like, I gotta be on this show.
Yeah, it was back in March, I
Yeah.
think. Because it was after the March Madness band bracketology thing that we did with that y'all
Yes.
won, of course.
Yeah, hilariously won. Yeah.
I think it was well earned. But then you slid into our DMs and were like, "Hey, if y'all ever do Linkin Park, let me
Yeah.
know." And then I said, "When can you get on?"
Yeah, no, and this is like the 1 month where I'm free. I'm glad that we were able to make it work, man. Thank you
Oh
for
yeah,
having me.
me too. So real quick, just to let the audience have a better idea of who you are as an individual, as an artist, just tell us a little bit about yourself, about your music, what you do, and anything else you may want to plug.
Yeah, sure. My name's Carson Pace. I sing for a band called the Callous Daoboys. We are I hesitate to say the word mathcore because that is usually pretty off-putting. I will say we are an alternative metal band from Atlanta, Georgia. We just put out an album called Celebrity Therapist last September. We tour a lot. We just got done with our first European tour, and we have a new EP coming out October 20th.
Let's go.
It is
Yes,
in my
sir.
calendar. Very excited to listen to
Do you
that.
guys have it?
Do we have the
Like, do you
EP?
have do you have the master of the EP?
We do not.
Would you like it?
Absolutely, I would.
Very
Yeah.
cool. You guys technically count as press, so I will
That's
throw it
very
in there.
generous.
Wow.
That is offensive to journalists all over the country.
Well, most journalists are offensive to journalists, so don't worry about it. You're
Yeah,
fine.
that's
Very
fair.
fair.
True.
Yeah.
So I was actually going to ask if you could just give us a little, if you could, a little tidbit on what the song with Pulses is going to sound like, because that sounds like an insane combo.
Yeah, we've been friends with them since I guess like 2021. We loved their music before then. Maddie is actually like our guitar player Maddie is actually like probably their biggest fan. She showed me that band and I was like, this is so fucking cool.
Mhm.
And that was probably like 2019 or 2020. And we just were like, this is a cool band and if they'd ever want to do something with us like, a tour or some kind of collaboration, that would be something that we would be, really interested in because I loved the vibe of their music and they did these breakdowns on their TikTok of like what other songs influenced their songs and like they were calling back to like rap songs that I loved when I was a kid and just like yelling out the same ad libs as those songs and stuff like that. And I was like, God damn, this is so cool. The way it came together was just we had this song that was really crazy and we just didn't know really where to take it. And then I was kind of like, well, we've wanted a Pulses feature for like a minute now, and we could just like carve out a good section of track for them to just do their thing on. So we like just wrote a pretty bare bones instrumental for them to just do their thing over. And it was like when we got it back, we were just like, oh my God, this is so cool. It's funny. It's so well done. It showcases like their abilities as like screaming vocalists and singers, and there's a little rapping in there, like all in one, and it's so cool. It's on a song that is nothing like anything we've ever done before, and like that song is like 5.5 minutes long. It's on the longer side. It's like essentially us trying to do like a like salsa version of Fall of Troy. And
Okay, that is like the most insane description I think I ever could have heard for a song.
Yeah, I don't know what
yeah.
you're talking about. Something that we've never done before. That's something that no one has ever done or thought of before.
Yeah, and it's got this like awesome like Fallout Boy type chorus on it, and
Oh my gosh. You just keep making it sound better.
it's probably the song that we're most excited about. We really, really can't wait to unleash it on the world, and I think that song in particular, people are going to be talking about quite a bit. So
Yeah, I can't wait to hear that one. That sounds absolutely unhinged in the best way.
it's on the wild side for sure.
That's awesome. Which is, I mean, you saying that, I've listened to Callous Daoboys for quite a while now. Hearing that you have a song on the wild side seems pretty on
Yeah.
brand.
Well, I mean, I think that maybe people are worried that the whole EP is going to sound like the single that we put out, which the single is like, I mean, I wanted to write a Glassjaw song, I wanted to write a Deftones song, and we just kind of took that prompt and did our own thing with it. People are maybe worried that we're just going to only do that from now on. Like all the Reddit comments are like, they're moving away from mathcore. And I'm like, it's fine, I think.
What
Like,
is that typical r/metalcore moment right there?
oh yeah, it's r/metalcore, and then what's even worse is r/mathcore, buddy. You don't want to get caught. You don't want to get caught in those weeds.
That's where all the 40-year-olds gather to complain about the current state of music.
Yeah, or like I don't know. I think that just like our sensibilities are always changing musically, and like I know that when I was 18, I was just like the only thing I wanted to listen to was mathcore. So like I know there's a kid in that subreddit who's just like me, who is upset that the Callous Daoboys just dropped the Deftones song, and that's fine. You're going to change, and one day you're gonna really like it, and and one day you might even not listen to mathcore at all, and you'll want to put on Steely Dan while you're grilling outside. So, you know, I welcome those comments, but yeah, I mean, the EP is still insane. I mean, it's like the most insane thing we've ever made. Like, it's crazier than Celebrity Therapist by like a wide margin.
That is hard to wrap my head around.
I know, but I think it's crazier, but also I think that it's a little more accessible than Celebrity Therapist. And you know, I saw a lot of people tweeting the day that the single that we just put out, Waco Jesus. I saw a lot of people tweeting just like, yeah, I couldn't get into Celebrity Therapist, but I like this a lot better. And you know, I have a feeling that that's going to be everyone's feelings towards the entire EP.
Well, I can't wait to hear it.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna send it to you. So
Appreciate that a lot.
of course, yeah. No, we're friends. It's cool. Just don't leak it.
That would be
Ooh.
the last time anyone ever comes on this podcast.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
All right. Well, I've been kind of steamrolling the conversation, so I'll let someone else chime in.
Carson, we mentioned the press or the media earlier, and I was just curious, kind of leading up to this episode, as somebody who is a professional in the music scene, making what sounds like you just described as polarizing music. What do you think about, if three guys started a show where they, compared to professional musicians, are talentless oafs? What do you think about them just hopping on and tearing down somebody's life's work if they don't enjoy the music?
Hypothetically.
Yeah, hypothetically, let's say three guys who all sound nearly the same got a podcast. No, I mean, I don't love the whole like music critics have never made music before, so like why are they commenting on it? I think that's kind of BS. Because like I mean, that's not the point. You know, just because someone's never made music in their life, that doesn't mean they don't enjoy music in a certain way, and that doesn't mean they don't have thoughts on it. And like I have a podcast that's just all about Fall Out Boy with my friend Dawson. And the reason why we started it is because Dawson and I just love talking about music and we love thinking about music, especially other people's music. So, the fact that we get to talk about Fall Out Boy for an hour every week is like that's like a gift to us. And, like I've never tried to write a Fall Out Boy album. I've only tried to write a Callous Daoboys album. So, like even that right there is like, that's basically the same point that people make when they're like, "Oh, that person's never made music before." It's like, "Yeah, I've also never tried making music as Fall Out Boy. I've never tried making music as, Architects or whatever." So it's like I think an opinion is still valid. That's all it is. Like when Pitchfork gives somebody a bad review, it's like, of course you can be mad about it for like 2 hours and just be like, "Oh, that person's wrong." But like, I think carrying that around as an artist or as somebody who enjoys the art that's being critiqued, I feel like it's just very silly. I get down on myself about our bad reviews or our criticisms occasionally, but like at the end of the day, like I love it. Like I love the music we make, and any bad review is not going to, stick with me for more than a couple hours. But like, I can definitely see where people are coming from with the whole like, when Fantano like pans a record and just gives it like a 2 out of 10 or something like that. It's like, yeah, he's the most influential guy in music criticism. He has made Pitchfork largely obsolete as tastemakers, but like at the same time, like people who are following Fantano and only liking what he enjoys, it's like, yeah, those aren't people who I want like listening to my music anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's cool that you guys do this, and that's why I'm a listener of the show is because like I widely, for the most part, disagreed with you guys on your Devil Wears Prada ranking, but like I loved hearing you talk about it. Like it doesn't matter. And like, I the MyChem one, I disagreed with you guys huge on the MyChem one, but I enjoyed the shit out of listening to it because it was just, three people who were clearly friends just talking about music critically. So, I don't know. I don't really have a problem with it, but I think other people tend to. Sorry, that was a very long-winded answer.
But that very insightful. I appreciate that answer. And last thing, you mentioned a podcast. What's it called? So we can listen to it.
Oh, it's called This Ain't a Scene, It's a Podcast.
All right.
Oh, I get
Plugging
that
it in.
reference.
We talk about one Fall Out Boy song every episode.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to take us a very long time to finish it.
I can't wait to hear the when you get into Mania.
Well, so we spin a wheel every week. We
Oh,
spin a wheel that has every single Fall Out Boy song on it. So we've done, I guess, 2 Mania songs now.
interesting.
Yeah, and like we skew towards like I don't know. There's rarely been a case where like I have hated a song when we spun for it, and then by the end of the episode I loved it. But there's been some surprises here and there where I've been like, okay, actually, like just because I had heard this song a lot, or just because like I didn't listen to this song as much because the other songs on the record were better. Like it's happened a lot where we've been like, oh, okay, this band rocks. So
Yeah.
um yeah, anyway, that is the gist of the podcast.
Is there ever a point where you think people goof too hard on music or go too hard on it? Like I know we can go pretty feral on some albums. Is there ever a line where it's like, okay, look, they are artists, they made this clearly with specific intentions, even if you don't like it,
I mean,
whatever.
within context, like no, but also like that's how I feel. That's how I feel about comedy in general. Is like as long as you're not crossing what is like a very defined line, I think it's like fine. Especially with like something like this, what we're about to do is like this band does have like a recent tragedy. As much as I want to acknowledge that recent tragedy, there's some lines on some recent records that I cringed at very, very hard. And like, as long as we don't, dive into like serious gallows humor about their singer dying, I think it's fine. Like, I feel like as long as the criticism isn't like, skewed towards being harmful regarding that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely agree.
So no, I mean, like, I try and live my life thinking everything is a joke. And if you ever make fun of anything on a Daoboys album, I really do not care because I will probably also find it funny.
Well, then you're in the right place.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, just one last question before we start. I'm just curious,
Yeah.
why Linkin Park? Is there like a connection there? Are they your favorite band? Like, what's going on there? Why'd you want to come for Linkin Park?
I would describe them as like my first band, like the first band that I ever really, really loved. And I wanted to get into this when we started, but now's actually a perfect time to get into it. When I was in eighth grade, or excuse me, seventh grade maybe, I wore a Linkin Park rubber bracelet every single day to school.
Oh my gosh.
They were everything to me. I was like a member of the Linkin Park underground group, like the forum. This was like, before Facebook groups really, or before like subreddits were really popular. Was like a historian on this band, and this is very dorky and very nerdy, but I used to just like we read their Wikipedia page for fun, like when I was that age. Like I loved this band so so much, and I would credit probably them and Fallout Boy for being the reason why I started like writing my own music. Like I played guitar before I found this band. I was like interested in music before I found this band, but when I found this band, it was like I was like, no, I'm doing this for the rest of my life. Like I stopped playing sports. I stopped like having any like ambitions regarding anything that wasn't music. Like I was like, no, I make music now. There's nothing else that I do. And then when Daoboys came along after, me and our guitar player Maddie playing in like many different bands together, when Daoboys came along, we just like needed a singer, and I was like, I mean, screw it, yeah. If we need a singer, I'll do it. And like, just because like in my mind, I was like, that's what Chester would do. Like that's like like I'll just try and be that guy. And then I think a year later was when we lost him, and I was just like absolutely crushed. I left work because of it. Like I was inconsolable. So I hesitate to call them like my favorite band of all time because I've definitely like there are definitely bands whose discography I like enjoy more, but this was the first band to ever like grab me like that. So I think about this band's discography quite a bit. I think about this band quite a bit. And I don't have any like real tattoos, but when I finally get a real tattoo, it is going to be a Linkin Park tattoo.
Fire.
Fire.
Thank you.
All right. Well, before we get into it, I have to be that guy. I have to plug the social media. If
Do
you
it.
want to follow us on Twitter, you can follow us at Discog_pod, TikTok at Discog Discourse, and Instagram at Discog.Discourse. As always, leave a 5-star review or subscribe on YouTube, wherever you're listening. Do whatever it takes to follow us so you don't miss new episodes. And I'll also add in, if you like this show and you know someone else who might like this show, go ahead and share with them because word of mouth is the most powerful way to grow one of these shows. And we're going to do this so quick because we've already been going for a while now. But we did promise some shout outs in the last episode. And so I want to give a shout out to Motormouth at Motormouth, who said, I appreciate the Vincent Adultman reference from our last episode. We got into a bit of a tangent on whether or not BoJack Horseman is a niche show. We said, whoever recognizes that reference first, let us know. And it was at Motormouth. So congratulations for that. And then, as always, if you quote tweet our rankings with your takes, we will choose 3 of them at the start of the episode to shout out. So this first one comes from Tyler at Reflect, but the second E is a 3. He says, these lists are wildly different somehow in reference to our current lists, which were all very similar, but all very different. Then Luis Miguel at LMSJ_11. He says, the way it ends number 5, that's enough Twitter for today. And then our last one comes from the OG of Discog Discourse, eJim at eJim. He says, this was hard. I personally love all of the albums. But 2 and 3 are interchangeable for me. but his list goes The Place I Feel Safest, The Death We Seek, The Way It Ends, I Let the Devil In, Life Lost, and Victimized. So we usually spend a little more time on that, but we've got some important ground to cover.
We've got some business to attend to, no
We
doubt.
do.
But yeah, dude, shout out Egypt. He's like the first person who ever interacted with us. He's the man.
Yes. Kyle,
It's
you've
time
been
to
our
get into it.
designated hitter today. You've
know.
been nominated.
Kyle,
I know, and I feel
Yeah.
a grand slam
this
coming
might
up.
be the most brutal beatdown of anybody on Discog Discourse. And I just want to say it was nice knowing you before we start. All right, let's jump into it.
So I'm happy to captain the ship. Gentlemen, my least favorite Linkin Park album, an album that I don't understand at all, 1,000 Suns.
Interesting.
Wait, that
No
can't be real.
way. No way.
You're lying.
No way.
Wow. Kyle, brother, you've messed
This
up.
could not go worse for you.
This can't be real. Carson, are you serious? That's your number one?
I'm 100% serious. I'm 100% serious. So
All right, well, I'll let you take it away. This could not be worse.
Wow.
yeah.
Could we see perfectly inverted lists today?
I don't
Yeah,
want to,
we
man.
might
What
see
the
it.
heck? All right, Carson, take it away. Jeez.
So I was worried that this was gonna happen first. Um, so all right. You guys asked me to do this, or I invited myself, I suppose. And going into this, I was like, there's no way 1,000 Suns is my favorite. Like, I love it. It's amazing. I am like such a huge fan of what this album makes me feel. And I'm such a huge fan of like how this album influenced me and like my songwriting perspective and everything like that. And I've talked about this album on other podcasts. Like I literally did a podcast episode with my friend Dom where I just talked about how much I loved this album for an hour. It has not come out yet, but you know, I made my friend Dom listen to it and he was like, "All right, I think I kind of see what you're saying." But again, going into this, I was like, it's not my number one. There's no way it can be my number one. And then
It's not too late.
hey, I listen to this one the absolute most out of the Discog run. I think I probably listened to this album at least 11 times while we were in Europe. I think maybe y'all should say what you don't like about it first, so maybe I can defend it because I had a feeling that this was gonna happen. I was hoping that it wouldn't be last for anyone, but this is okay. I am prepared to defend it.
It's unfortunate that we chose Kyle to lead the episode and spoiled your number one right
Yeah,
off
That
the
is
top.
so funny.
It's okay. It's okay. It's
That's
totally
never, and I
fine.
don't think this is the first time that's ever happened where one of our lasts
really?
have been a first.
It is.
That is nuts, man.
This is a movie moment right here.
Yeah.
But here, Carson, let me give my.
You're not gonna hurt my feelings, by the way. I'll be fine.
I'm putting my boxing gloves on. I'm not pulling any punches.
Good.
Oh, whoa.
I understand doing a concept album to warn about the destruction of war and technology. I get it. I understand that that was the full intention of this record, at least from a thematic standpoint. I get it. I love that. However, there needs to be both an interesting and catching message combined with musical elements that let me restart and just say I don't think there's quite enough and quite a bit of these songs where I can really grab anything. I feel like there are quite a few songs where it feels like it's almost a dance beat with a little bit of synth and then Chester singing over it. And I enjoy Chester's voice quite a bit. I love his songwriting style, but I don't love how stripped down a lot of this feels. as an overall album. There feels like there's a lot of open space in the album, kind of as I mentioned, of some songs don't feel filled up quite enough. But the fact that there are 6, 7 interludes sort of makes me, sort of validates at least my feeling in that there is a lot of open space. And even though those interludes are a minute each, that's still 7 tracks off of how many? 14, 15?
15.
So that was one of my first impressions when I first listened to this record of, I understand this is unlike anything they have ever done. And it's right after minutes to midnight, which is probably one of their more successful commercial albums. I get that. I get that they're doing something different. And I respect it. I respect the bizarre robotic themes that they have throughout, both lyrically and instrumentally. But at the end of the day, I think Linkin Park is at their best when Chester is driving home the energy, when he is bringing the energy.
See,
And I really only hear, there are really only 2 songs on this record that I somewhat enjoy. There's one that I do enjoy. I really like Waiting for the End. I think that's a
Great
fascinating song. I think Chester did a great job throughout. I think the rap part at the end, that where they kind of build around that that melody is really, really cool.
What are the other 2 songs that you kind of enjoy?
I enjoy The Messenger. I think it's a solid closer, but
Okay,
but that's
what's the other
because
one?
those were the 2. Waiting for the End and
Oh,
The
wow.
Messenger.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think there's another one that's just as good as those songs.
Is it When They Come For Me?
You bet your bottom dollar it is.
Okay. I kind of, I don't know. That one I did cringe quite a bit when it was like, and all the people say, and then there's tribal chanting, and he goes, try to catch up, mother. And I'm like, okay, I don't really get that. Maybe I'm missing something, but
What are you missing here?
Yeah. Why don't you try and catch up?
Look, okay, I get, some of the lyrics in that song are a little goofy, I'm not a monkey. I will not dance even if the beat is funky.
No.
Okay.
No. I'm not a robot. I'm not a monkey. I will not dance if the beat's funky. That line is hard. That line is objectively hard.
I love that line.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, I do.
Let me give my opposite angle of what Kyle just said. They're 4 albums in. They have crafted a language with each other as far as songwriters go. This is their 2nd record with Rick Rubin.
Yeah, did not know that. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, Rick Rubin did Minutes to Midnight, and this was their 2nd one with him, and I believe their last. I'm not entirely sure about that. They may have had him do like some additional production on Living Things, but I'm really not entirely sure. And the way that Chester sounds on this record, I think is the best he sounds in their entire discography. Just as far as technical ability and power goes as a vocalist, I feel like he sells these songs better than he should be allowed to, especially the Catalyst, which I'm just going to go ahead and say this right now. Without the Catalyst, my band would not exist. 1000% we would not exist. Like that, without the Catalyst, there is no Star Baby. There is no nothing. And I say that because it is 2 songs in one. It is like one of the strangest songs they've ever written. And I understand it feeling empty, but the way that Chester's like screams go over that like very sparse instrumental is like so crazy. And then when you get to the ending crescendo of that song, it's just like, all right, holy crap, man. Like this is one of the coolest songs I've ever heard. And I set my nostalgia for this record aside, and I really thought this would not end up being my number 1, but I really do think it is the album that Chester sounds the best on. And as far as the themes of like war and technology go, I think it's by no means subtle, but I think that it's not overbearing and it's not annoying and it's not like overly political. I think it's very much about the like invention of the atomic bomb.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah. I think it's very well done.
I think he does a really good job. It's not preachy at all. And
No.
and kind of my point at the very beginning of a concept album, I think they did an excellent job in not only having the concept be present in the lyrics, but also throughout all the music. So I definitely get that. It was not interesting to me in my couple listens through.
That's fair, but like I don't know, man. Like you didn't get the blackout and you were like, this is so cool. Like you didn't get to like Like Wretches and Kings, like keep in mind this was 2010, so this was before all pop music had trap hi-hats in it. So like at the time it was cool. But setting that aside, like I think Wretches and Kings has like just like such a huge chorus. I don't know, it feels like everyone's firing on 100 on this record. And whether or not that means like huge crushing riffs and big anthemic radio choruses, like it just feels like everyone's creativity is like so outside of the box and they just lined up together perfectly.
This is a very interesting album because in my initial listen through, I was like, yeah, I'm not really feeling a lot of these songs. Like, these aren't necessarily songs that I would throw in my library and listen to. They come on shuffle and I'm ready for it.
Mhm.
But there was something about it that kept drawing me back to it, and, like, I think it is a lot of that very kind of experimental nature with the concept and everything. And I wrote down, like, I feel like I almost enjoy this album in the same way that I enjoy movies, where I can see past kinda like the very, just surface level, "How do I feel about this song?" Because there is that, like, deeper experimental layer, and it's like, "Okay, well, let me sit down. I can appreciate what they're going for, even if this doesn't necessarily all come together for me."
Yeah.
The interludes, especially, really threw me off the first time. I was like, did we just open up with an interlude and then
There's
another
2.
interlude?
There's
Did we just
2
do back to
intros.
back?
And then we have a
Yeah.
song, and then we have another interlude.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like at first I was like, "That's crazy," but then, I mean, this is probably one of the most out of pocket references I think I could possibly make, but it almost reminds me of like something that clipping would do, where it's
Yes.
just
Yes.
so experimental, and it's like it's not about writing song that could be a hit and song that could be a hit and song that could be a hit. It's putting the story together and building the concept around these soundscapes and the atmosphere, and each
Yeah.
song kind of carries in through the next one. And I think ultimately it flows very well. And it did leave me with a very interesting feeling. I think it is very open, like Kyle said, but I kind of liked it. I kind of liked the way it all came together from that experimental framework, even though the only songs I really like are When They Come For Me and Waiting for the End.
You don't like the Catalyst?
It didn't stick out to me as
Dang. That's a
particularly
bummer.
gripping.
To me, like, yes, and I'm a big fan of movies, so I mean, I guess it makes sense that I really love this album. I love the way it moves and the way it flows a lot. I mean, to me, like the Catalyst is like the big third act crescendo,
Yeah.
and then the Messenger is the credits rolling. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And if you're looking at it like that, and if you're ready to take in the vibe that this record has, then I think that it's a great record. I will confess, like there are some of these songs that I just don't listen to individually, but there are several that I do. I mean, like When They Come For Me is hard. That
Banger.
stuff, that thing just rocks, man. That song is awesome.
The production in that song is
It's
insane
so crazy.
with that really abrasive synth and the drums, like, all of that percussion sounds nuts.
That's the other thing I wanna bring up is that this is their best produced record, like, by far. This is the record that sounds the best. I mean,
I
you
think I can get behind that.
I agree that it sounds
I think it's
extremely
this or their newest, which are the two best produced, in my opinion.
ooh, ooh, I
Oh,
have some
that's
qualms with that,
interesting.
but we'll get to that record.
You don't agree?
We might talk about that very shortly.
Okay.
Oh, oh, oh.
Oh, oh, yeah, sorry, Kyle, while I was talking, I believe you were about to say something when I brought up the Catalyst.
I was gonna say that didn't stick out to me either. But if you say that the Daoboys don't exist without that song,
100%.
I will likely give it another re-listen.
100%. I mean, for me, when I heard this album when I was, I guess, 14 years old, 13 years old, when I heard this, I was like, this is like nothing I have ever heard in my life. And it brought up these implications that, oh, music can like be whatever I want it to be, which is, maybe why I end up loving this so much. And, like later on in life, I can see that they were influenced by bands like, Pendulum or The Prodigy or Radiohead. Like I can
Oh,
very
yeah.
clearly see that they essentially tried to make a Radiohead record with this album, and they failed in making a Radiohead record, but they succeeded in making something that I don't think has ever been replicated before.
It is very unique.
It is very unique, and I understand how you guys feel about it, but I also see that Jeff ranked it third. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
would
Yeah, Jeff.
I would like to know what's going on there.
He's been real quiet over there.
I had to take it
Yeah.
all in at first, but this to me feels like the way that a band should evolve.
My boy.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like a natural progression where you start, to me in Linkin Park's earlier career, they're, producing a lot of these like bangers and like really, really popular music, but they felt kind of like isolated. I don't know if you all agree with that, but they felt kind of isolated from each other in a way. Like there wasn't this story, there wasn't this like tie between them or anything.
No.
It just makes sense that a band would go like, why don't we try to produce something that's more than just a bunch of individual songs, but produce something that's like this entire piece of art in music form, that
Yep.
flows perfectly and has these interludes and is telling us stories, trying to push a message. And that's what this album feels like to me. And I love almost all the songs off this album. I don't love Robot Boy. That song just does not work.
I will say I saw them on this tour that they did for this record, and that song worked like way better live. But if I had to pick a weakest track, 100% Robot Boy. Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't really do anything for me. But otherwise, I'm surprised no one mentioned "Burning in the Skies." I know Kyle, you mentioned that it sounds like
Ooh,
dance music, but I think it's really catchy, and I think it really works well.
that song's so
It's so
good.
good.
It is
It's
catchy.
That hook is just like it's
oh,
one of
it
their
is, and it's an
best.
earworm like no other. It's been stuck in my head for weeks and weeks. So there's credit where
Let's
credit's
go.
due.
Let's go.
And then I agree. The Catalyst, beautiful song, very catchy, has all the elements that you want. It really does feel like a crescendo coming. I don't like The Messenger, but if you describe it like credits, then I'm like, okay, it's credits. Like, I don't love it.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like if it ended with the Catalyst, I'd be like 10 out of 10, perfect album. And like I do like The Messenger. This is a terrible thing to say, but like as a swan song for the man that wrote it, it does hit a little harder.
Fair.
Sure.
Because as someone who's seen the A Thousand Suns studio documentary many, many times, I know that he wrote that song for his kids as like sort of a message for when he eventually crossed over. And obviously none of us expected it to be as soon as it was, but I do think it's a beautiful little thing that he made, and I'm glad it's on the record.
Mm,
Could I have done without it? Definitely, but I'm glad
it's
it's on there.
fair.
Yeah, I guess the last thing that I'll say, and I guess I don't know the context behind it, but it almost feels kind of like "Life Is But a Dream" by Avenged Sevenfold, where it's very polarizing, where you either love it or hate it. It's a make or break.
Well, it's better than Life Is But a Dream.
I was gonna say that too.
I'd probably agree with that. Yeah, I'd probably agree with that.
Man, I'm just in the bottom 25% right now because I enjoy Life's But a Dream. But again, I did not listen deeply to this, so
I like Life Is But a Dream quite a bit. I like that record a lot. I think it's cool, but
We
I
got into a
also
little discourse about it on Twitter when it dropped.
yeah, we did. We did. I didn't want to fight you or anything, but I was like, I think this is interesting. I think it's cool. It's okay that you don't like it. It's completely fine.
That was our practice round for this.
Yeah, for sure
Yeah,
for this.
I just want to say for this album real quick, this album has two of my favorite rapping performances in their entire discography.
Yes.
One they already talked about when they come for me with the Not a Monkey.
Yes.
Love that. Really, really aggressive. I love the flow. The other one though is Wretches and Kings. Carson, I know you mentioned that. I love the rapping on that song so much. It's great. Very aggressive.
Yeah, and there's some like manly like hey
Yeah.
hey hey samples in that song that have not aged very well, but at the same time, like apart from this being the record that Chester sounds the best on, and I hate to say this because I love the guy so much, but this is the record where Mike Shinoda sounds the least cringy. Like 100%. I love him. I think he's amazing. And I think he's written fantastic lyrics before, but like the like lyrical miracle stuff like happens on other albums, especially the one after this album. There's some lines where I'm like, oh brother. But on this one there isn't a single line while he's rapping where I'm like, okay, thanks Mike. Like there just isn't one.
If you say so, boss.
I am not a robot, I am not a monkey, I will not dance even if the beat's funky. Opposite of lazy,
Yep.
far from a punk. All right, sorry. I could do the whole song. I think I could do that entire song right now.
Well, in the interest of time, we're gonna cap the discussion there and move on.
Okay, sounds good.
What you got next?
Kyle?
Yeah, I'm pretty nervous right now, and if this goes poorly, I will be passing the torch to Jeff.
Awesome.
I don't think you can do that. You're locked in.
I guess you're right. My number 6 Linkin Park album is their most recent record, One More Light.
Look, I didn't want to be that guy.
Rose, we're not that different. We're not that different after all.
Yeah.
We're back.
We're not too different.
Since this is your lowest, Nathan, please.
Yeah, in the most respectful way possible, this is pretty easily my least favorite Linkin Park album. This is just so far out of kind of the wheelhouse of things that I tend to enjoy musically that it really couldn't land anywhere but last for me, because there isn't really anything on this album that I come to and I'm like, that is a song that I will listen to outside of doing this episode. And it really comes down to very mellow. I don't think the production is all that impressive. It's very poppy and has a lot of those kind of EDM chopped vocals over drops and a lot of influence there. I like that they tried something kind of new and continue to push themselves in that direction, but it just really isn't for me. And that's kind of where my thoughts lie on this one.
I mean, as I've said before, like was like annihilated by, the news that came after this. But that being said, I'm going to say bad things first, and then I'm going to offer a defense up of this record. This album is bad. I don't know if the word that I'd use is bad. I think it's not good. I feel like what I was just talking about with cringy Mike Shinoda lines. This is the pits, man.
It's bad.
It is not good.
I think that Heavy is like a fine song. I remember when that song came out, I was well past my like Linkin Park obsession, and like, Daoboys was my thing. So like that was kind of the kind of music I was really into at the time. And when Heavy came out, I was like, this is catchy. I didn't really expect them to make something mind blowing. This is okay. I know I'm going to see a lot of hate for this. And people hated that song. I don't know who Kiara is. I don't know if she's appeared in other places since. Hadn't heard of her before this song came out. Have never heard anything from her after this. If she has some big song, I don't know about it. But I could chalk that up to me just being an old fart. But I thought that song was fine this go around. But like Good Goodbye is like the worst song this band has ever made.
Really? I disagree. I think it's probably the best song on the record.
I also disagree.
Yeah.
Really?
Okay, I don't think it's the best song on the record when both Talking to Myself and Battle Symphony exist. Granted,
Yeah.
I don't think those are particularly good. They're better than Good Goodbye. Good Goodbye is not as bad as Halfway Right or One More Light.
Oh no, I really like One More Light. That was one of my biggest positives. I like the like sparseness of One More Light. Like I love how there's like not any trap hi-hats or like snap samples or like claps or anything. And the meaning that song takes on with today's context definitely factors into that a little bit, but
Sure.
Absolutely.
Carson, will you repeat this favorite song? I cut out for a moment there.
oh, my least favorite song is Good Goodbye.
Are we polar opposites?
You like that song?
I don't like it, but I love Pusha T.
Yes, dude. That's how I feel. He saves that song.
That bumps it up a little bit.
He's the best part of that song. You know what? Actually, Halfway Right might be worse. Halfway Right.
Halfway
That
Right's
song
pretty
is
bad.
terrible. Respectfully,
song.
that song is not
Yeah.
good.
But here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to offer a defense of this record because it needs to be defended slightly. This is why it's not my last place. It's the same reason why if we did a Fall Out Boy ranking, Mania would not be my last place. Every band needs one of these. Every band has one of these coming and needs one. And it needs to be received in the way that Mania got received. Maybe not as harshly as this album got received, because I know that was very difficult on the members of this band. But it needs to be received in a bad way so that the band can then go back to the drawing board and make a better album, much like Fall Out Boy did. And they never got the chance to do that.
Yeah.
This is a misstep. This is an attempt at trying to stay relevant. This is an effort to keep up with popular music at the time. And yes, they are like 4 years behind on all the trends that were happening. Like, I'm pretty sure music hadn't sounded like this in 3 or 4 years when this record came out. That being said, they didn't really get the chance to course correct. And if they did get that chance, I think they would have figured it out. Whether that's a complete return to form record or just saying, all right, you know what? People aren't showing up anymore, and people don't like us trying to keep up with the state of pop music. So let's stop trying. So I do think that it's a little unfair to say this is their worst. They just didn't really get the chance to correct it. I mean, they are never going to get the chance to correct it, unfortunately. But in my opinion, any band that has been going as long as they were going needs to have one of these. And it's just it's a little hard to listen to because you can very clearly tell like this is them trying to catch up with rap music. This is them trying to catch up with dance music. This is them trying to catch up with pop music that plays at the grocery store. Like
Yeah.
Oh,
it's tough to
yeah.
listen to.
Yeah, the R&B feel of a lot of these songs is just something I'm not looking for with Linkin Park. I know this isn't the case, but it does come across sometimes as like, are you putting everything into this song or this record? Or are you mailing some of these aspects in? I know that's not the case, but that's how it sort of feels. And I know how that's
No,
how a lot of people responded.
I mean, more than that, I feel like it's very like, how do you do, fellow kids? You know,
Yeah.
like which stinks. You know, like that is a bummer. But like that doesn't mean this album is unfair to criticize at all. But just what I'm
Sure.
saying is like I do think that I do think that they didn't really get the chance to correct their
Yeah.
ways.
I actually really like that perspective.
Yeah.
It's a very mature way to look at this. A misstep that they never got a chance to step back in from. And I
No,
would love to have seen what they would have done next,
same.
given the opportunity.
If you look at what Shinoda did after this, like it's very, very thoughtful art that he very clearly like gave a huge shit about. So I would like to think in my like fantasy world that the record that they made after this was very good. You know
Mhm.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Reason why I don't have this at the bottom is simply because this album, although it's not great, it's a pretty easy listen.
Yeah.
There's no like real songs on here that I absolutely hate. Like this is an album I could put on in the background when I'm working or something, and it's like not offensive to my ears. Unlike another album, which I do think has a lot of offensive songs to my ears. So that's a positive. This album, like, it is very easy listening. I kind of like the aspect about it.
I'm worried that Jeff and Carson's last is still open with this one off the table.
I'm praying I know what it is.
I am too. Like literally, I am right now throwing Hail Marys on my knees. Like I really hope.
It's not going to be something sacrilegious. Don't worry.
That's good.
Jeff, to your point, it's an easy listen. That doesn't mean I want it on.
No, no, no. I would never. I would know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go out of my way to listen to this.
Is it an easy listen? Because a lot of these songs are extremely sad
Yeah.
Well,
under the light of everything that
Oh,
happened.
for sure, no doubt. I just think that in terms of what their earlier music sounded like, this is very poppy,
Yes.
and it's definitely something that you could put on in the background and kind of just not really actively listen to, and
Yeah.
it's
Mhm.
fine.
But to that point, that's kind of why it ranks last for me. It's like so far outside of
Yeah.
everything I know Linkin Park to be and everything that I'm looking for from them that I was left with no other option.
Oh, that's fair. It's just in terms of one other album, this one's just kind of like an eh. It's for me. There's another album that they have that's like I really don't like it.
Mhm.
Before we move on, can I pose a question to the three of you?
Yes,
Please.
please.
Would any of these songs be better if they were Ed Sheeran songs?
All of them, probably.
Probably because
I mean, listen, man, I would expect Pusha T to be on an Ed Sheeran song before a Linkin Park song, probably. So
well, expectations do play a lot into it, like
right.
going into an album. So I think they would be.
Yeah.
And Ed Sheeran
Okay.
does a lot of R&B stuff elements in his music as is, and it did feel like a little bit of a an ice bath listening to an R&B beat with Chester kind of emotionally
Yeah.
projecting over it. So
I kind of like how he sounds on this album, though. It's
He
not
sounds so sterile, man.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
agree.
it's sterile, but like it's not terrible.
It's too clean.
It's inoffensive, like everything about this
Yes,
album,
exactly.
It's too clean.
from a commercial standpoint.
Which is what
Yeah.
makes it offensive.
Yep,
Yeah.
full circle. Ironic.
Cool.
All
That's
right,
the
Kyle,
last thing I had to say about
Yeah.
it.
let her rip.
I'm worried. Like I said, gentlemen, I really am, because if this isn't what I think it is, well, who knows?
Yeah.
My number 5 Linkin Park record is Living Things.
Oh, really?
No, no, Kyle.
Okay, buddy. Okay, smart guy.
Oh,
Dang it, man. All right.
Oh, I guess it's in the same slot for me. I'm so silly.
But all right, but that means that what I know, gosh darn it, I know my number 4 to be will likely be
Kyle, your
anyway.
number 4 is ridiculous.
Hey, that's what we do here. That's what we do here. The discourse. We discog, and gosh darn it, do we discourse. Jeff, you've gone last every time, my brother. Tell me why this is your number 5. Living Things is your number 5 Linkin Park album.
Dude, honestly, it's just because this album like really didn't do anything for me. I really like what they were trying to go for with this album. There's a lot more of like that, I guess, electronic kind of different feel to it, especially coming off of A Thousand Suns, where you sort of started to feel those elements coming in. But this one, I mean, it just feels like there's a lack of identity, and it feels like there's a lack of the elements that made Linkin Park great are sort of kind of starting to fade away in this album, at least to me a little bit. It feels like the choruses aren't all that great, and the delivery on this project is just, I don't like it at all. In a lot of the songs, it just is grating to my ears. Burn It Down, I really don't like that song at all. And I think it's really, really overrated.
Ooh.
And Castle of
Weird.
Glass, the other popular song in this album, I also think falls flat on its face. That song is really boring.
That's an even bigger L.
That song just bores the life out of me, dude. I don't know why.
Jeff, you are out of your mind, brother.
Jeff, I agree with you. I agree with you on Castle of Glass. That song
Thank you.
is cheeks,
And-
in my opinion.
That's like the best song on the album, but pop off, I guess.
No, it's
no,
not.
it's not.
Well, no, it's not the best song on the album, but yeah.
That song's amazing.
The songs that I really like on here are kind of the atmospheric ballads, like I'll Be Gone, Roads Untraveled, Skin to Bone. There's just something, I guess, I don't know how to explain it about those songs that really draws me in that you don't really find on like Castle of Glass. Castle of Glass is just boring. It's like I'll Be Gone is like, there's like an energy to it almost. I can't really describe it.
I'll Be Gone is my lowest rated song on the album.
Dude.
I'll Be Gone is not great. It's a big nothing burger.
See, I disagree completely.
It's a huge nothing burger.
Nothing
It sounds like a song
happens.
you'd hear in a movie, which I really like in the background of a movie.
Yeah, in the background of a scene that doesn't matter.
I just disagree with you. I think it would be in a scene that matters a lot, actually.
Really?
In this weird hypothetical movie.
Jeff, we could agree that Living Things the movie isn't a great movie. It doesn't really matter.
It's not great, but it does
Yeah.
a few things right.
It does a few things right, but also like before I go into what I was gonna say, worst album art this band has ever had. Like by far.
See, I
Um,
disagree.
Awful to look at.
I think there's another album that is like 3D model garbage.
oh,
Wait, you guys don't think
Oh yeah, that one is
One More
bad.
Light is the worst?
No, I think
No.
that art's great actually. I
mean, I
I
kind of
think
like
it
it.
better captures the mood of the album.
It's just kids
Yeah.
on a beach, right? What's the context behind it?
I believe it's Chester's Kids on the
Ah,
Beach. Yes.
Okay, see, that's
But-
important
yeah,
context.
Jeff.
Yeah.
Now I bet you feel bad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
Jeff.
moron.
That's important context for me to have to evaluate this album.
I really like Burn It Down. I think it's a like fun little like synth pop song, and the way that music was in 2012, I don't know, it just like kind of slides into that time period for me real easily. it's not like totally a like EDM song, but it's also not totally like chasing a trend type of pop song. I really like Mike's verse in that song too. I think that that's like a very cool like lyrically I think he did a very cool job with that one. Lost in the Echo has one of the worst cringe Mike Shinoda lines. Y'all go hard, I go smart. That one really I like that makes me want to skip the song.
That's darn near unforgivable.
Yeah, I don't like that one.
Decent song outside of that though.
The bridge is hard. The bridge is
The
very
bridge
hard.
is dope. Lies, Greed, Misery is like so fun. That could slot in on A Thousand Suns, like if you were to make like an A Thousand Suns deluxe edition type of deal. Castle of Glass is good.
Okay,
I
y'all gotta stop.
when I went to listen to this record, every single time I was like, Castle of Glass is coming up. I love this song, and every single time I was like, oh man, this is a snoozer a little bit. I still like it, but In My Remains, I think, is the biggest highlight for me on this one. Um, these songs are so samey. They all hit my ears the exact same. I think a lot of that has to do with the mixing. I will bring up that the place that music mixing was in at the time was this weird thing where like everyone stopped mixing for radio, which like if you don't know, there's like a certain way that pop music was engineered for like FM radio back in the day. And 2012 it was like a weird place of like, all right, well, we want these songs to be on the radio, but we also want them to be like high quality enough for streaming. So what if everything is the exact same level the entire time? And it just causes this like weird ear fatigue. And when there is guitar, it's like being overwhelmed by like these underlying synths. And this record just doesn't have any riffs. It bums me out, man.
That
Like
is true.
there's just no riffs, man.
That is my biggest gripe, is that it lacks identity, and a large part of that is because it lacks the instrumental energy that I was craving from earlier albums, and like the Linkin Park that leaves me wanting more is completely void here because
Yeah, well,
of
Okay, well, I don't know if it's completely void.
it's not completely void. My favorite song on this record is Victimized. I think that's a pretty darn good song. I
cool song.
love
Cool
Oh,
song. Yeah.
Chester's energy, and I think the rapping in that song is pretty freaking good. It matches up well with Chester's energy back into the rapping, back into the energy, and I really enjoyed the drum patterns in that song as well. But what I mean is that as an album, as a coherent listening experience, it doesn't feel like it has much of an identity.
It has an identity. It's just like a very boring one.
Sure,
Like,
it's a nothing burger. It feels like nothing is really happening. Once they feel like they get any momentum, it feels like the energy is killed in most songs. Like I said, I do Victimize is the one song on this record that I would say I really enjoy. But I also think Lies, Greed, and Misery is really fun, sort of poppy, Panic at the Disco-y. Lost in the Echo is fine, and as is Skin to Bone.
dude, Victimized is like a huge miss for me.
Same, dude.
It almost kind of sounds like a remember when we used to be heavy? We can still do that. Look at this.
Yeah.
It kind of pandering in that way. And it almost, to me at least, sounds like what people who don't listen to metal imagine metal to sound like. Oh, you need the blast beats and the scream delivery. And he's like, victimize, victimize. And it's like the production style on this album just doesn't sound good with that style of music. Like it
No,
doesn't
not at all.
sound very good. And so that song is a huge miss for me.
Yeah.
Well, that song is like fine to me, and immediately after that, that's where I want to shut it off. Like,
Really?
yeah, I like Until It Breaks, and I think Powerless is all right, but like Roads Untraveled, Skin to Bone, and Tinfoil are all just like nothing to me.
I love those songs.
Roads Untraveled and Skin to Bone, I think is a great one too.
Same.
I agree.
Same.
I can't get
Like
behind it.
I just love the kind of stripped back atmosphere of those songs. Like the chimes in Roads Untravels just scratches a certain itch in my brain.
And you might
and-
really like an album called A Thousand Suns.
Funny you mentioned that.
Yeah, I do love the haunting, kind of oddly theatric feel of Skin to Bone coming from Roads Untraveled.
Those songs are super moody,
Yes.
Yeah.
which
Yes.
I really like, and I kind of like the softer vocal delivery. I think they do it really well there.
Yeah, Nathan, that's exactly.
But I also like Castle of Glass, so what do I know?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I don't think that song's boring. I think it's kind of cool the way it's building on itself throughout the song and kind of bringing in more and more elements as it goes on. Now, I will say every time it ends, I'm like, oh, it's over. It never has maybe the moment, but I think it's very catchy, and it's a pretty solid example of a good melodic Linkin Park song.
Yeah.
Did you guys listen to this record at all when it came out?
No,
I'll tell you, the first time I listened was 3 weeks ago. So
To me and the other Linkin Park fans that were like around my age, this was kind of like the beginning of the end.
I can see that.
It was like we all like this enough to still like buy tickets, but also what is happening here?
Yeah.
It was their Waco Jesus in the eyes of r/mathcore.
Hey,
Whoa,
hey.
we're going meta, boys.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
They did a co-headlining tour with Incubus around this time that I went and saw. It was just strange. Like it was real weird. There was like not a there was not a single person that was into like when these songs were played live. And they played Burn It Down, I believe, at the Grammys. I remember watching it just being like, okay, like when does this end? Because I don't feel good about watching this.
Well, it's interesting because like I didn't listen to this album when it came out, but I feel like I heard that song every single
That
day.
song was everywhere, and, like, what's weird is that they were kind of like this was kind of a comeback for them. Like, that Incubus tour was, like, packed. There were so many people at that show.
I did kind of have that note where it almost feels like a slight return to form and like bringing back the way they used to structure their songs with more of a balance between the vocals, but it also sounds like Linkin Park light in a way. Like this is the
Yeah.
if this band was reborn just into an electronic alt rock kind of band,
Yeah.
it's this.
Yeah.
And it kind of works for me, but I mean, not that high on my list.
At the time, it really worked. At the time, I think everyone was really stoked on this, but then, like, a year after the 6 months after the record came out, a year after the record came out, it's like, okay, all right, I'd like to hear the Meteora songs now, please. Let's
Yeah,
Whoa, 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 whoa. Spoiler.
we'll get there. We'll get
we'll
there.
get there in due
Cool.
time.
In due time.
No
yeah.
one, Kyle will probably do that next.
Listen, I've had a tough stretch, all right?
We're being too hard on Kyle.
No, you're not. I do deserve
Impossible.
it. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a hey, I put Meteor next. Just bury me now.
Mind your business.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
All right. What are
Jeff.
you doing?
Jeff, you're kidding.
What
Jeff.
on earth is last, Jeff?
Jeff.
Oh, dude, I know, Jeff. I bet I could take a good guess.
I mean, it's kind of
Yeah.
apparent at this point. Like, yeah,
Jeff,
we'll get there. We'll
man,
get there.
you're
Hey,
breaking my
we'll
heart,
get
man.
there.
All right.
All right,
Yes.
Jeff is now tied to the post with.
Yeah, Jeff is the new whipping boy.
Man, the hunting party is like a real return to form.
I want to hear why this is Carson's last.
Because
As
this album sucks.
Let's let Jeff say his piece, and then I will respond to what Jeff
good
says.
call, good call. A rebuttal.
All right. Yeah.
Oh, we're getting into Discog debate again.
Yes, we are. You have 3 minutes, Jeff. Your time starts now.
Nathan, what you were saying about living things is how I feel about the hunting party. Is that this feels like
Same.
a return to form. It has that aggression like earlier Linkin Park used to have, but they brought it back. And I think you see this sort of in like War is a great example of that. Rebellion, Guilty, all the same. You sort of have these elements of older Linkin Park that they brought back. And that verse by Rakim and Guilty All the Same, I think, is really, really good. Probably a top 5 rapping performance in their entire discog.
Agreed.
L.
Dude, Rakim, I mean, that he crushed that
Yeah.
verse.
That's the worst part of the song by a lot.
I love it. I love it.
That
Jeff,
verse
I agree
is
with you.
so out of place.
And so, but I think the drawbacks of this album are similar to the previous one. You have a lot of those kind of electronic elements coming in. I still don't absolutely love like the delivery and stuff in a lot of these songs. I think it does sometimes fall flat. I don't love the production, all the songs. I still think there's that like drowning out of the lyrics with the instrumentation that you see in like these two albums for some reason. I do think that a lot of the problems that Living Things had, this album kind of works to rectify. The energy is back. There are a lot of catchy hooks on here, and I think it does honestly feel like a semi return to form in a lot of ways.
All right.
Let me just go ahead and really just echo what Jeff said is that I do have problems with this record. It feels like a return to form in terms of
yeah.
energy.
Carson, I'm on your team for this one. Just know that.
Oh, I know Nathan. You and I are gonna hang out later because of this.
Yeah, we are.
Okay. All right. Jeff.
Yeah.
Well, me and Jeff are gonna
yeah, we're gonna go
Yeah.
ahead. Yeah.
Carson just got invited to my birthday party.
Yeah. Oh, your hunting party? Anyway.
Oh,
That's a
Oh,
reference.
shit.
Now that's a discourse.
I jeez. I see what the two of you are saying. I understand it from a technical standpoint. Objectively, I can look at this record and say it's a return to form. But also, I'd like to say that the two of you are smoking crack cocaine.
So what if I am?
This record sucks.
retweet.
This is like who on earth wanted a thrash metal record from Linkin Park? Because it's not me. I think that this record sounds like garbage. It is produced horribly. I think the features are useless. None of them. I mean, I suppose like if you're looking at the song title, it's like, oh, feet Rakim, feat Tom Morello, feat Darren Malakian. If you're looking at the song title, you're like, this is going to be awesome. And then you play it, and it's one of the worst songs I've ever heard. There are two highlights for me on this record, and it's Final Masquerade and A Line in the Sand. Everything else, I would like to delete from my ears. I hope I never have to hear them ever again. Keys to the Kingdom is baffling. I'm listening to the drums on that song and I'm like, you couldn't get a better take of that? Like there isn't like a better pattern you could have picked, or like just playing it tighter maybe. Guilty All the Same is almost 6 minutes and it feels like 12.
That's crazy, man.
Every song lasts way too long. Every single hook, the second it hits my ears, I'm like, technically I should like this, but like the production, the mixing, everything about it, and it's just not catchy. There's nothing. This record is bad. Nate,
Put me in, coach.
get in here.
This album sounds like a Linkin Park cover band that decided to start making original music.
Yes.
Because everything about this just sounds so amateur. Whether it's the songwriting and songs going way too long and staying past their welcome, or even like the main riff in Guilty All the Same is cool for about 30 seconds, and then they play it over and over and over again. The choruses don't hit on this album. They're not interesting. They're not catchy. The instrumentation, who cares? It happens. You can say that about it. And the production is awful.
Yeah.
And I think that may be the biggest kicker here, because that affects everything. These choruses could be fine maybe if they sounded bigger or sounded like if they had a cleaner take, but nothing on here has the oomph that it should. And everything just sounds so weak. And I just don't understand how they could take such a drastic step back in every single fundamental of writing and recording music.
Yes. It feels like they were hearing a bunch of people telling them to be heavy again, and they're like,
Mhm.
okay, here's what happens when we try and do that. Sorry.
They're like, oh, we wrote all these demos back when we were 10. Let's just
Yeah.
put them out as is what it sounds like.
But I kind of like the heaviness though.
Yeah, Keys to the Kingdom, Guilty All the Same, and War. are better than anything off Living Things.
That's simply not true. That is objectively false.
War is so fun. It's a classic punk rock song. You got the galloping drums, the gritty delivery, and the vocals.
Yeah, War stands
I
out.
like that song a lot.
Yeah, it has that classic punk sound, but I don't think Linkin Park does it very well.
No, not at all.
I
I
disagree.
think that song they did it well.
I enjoyed it.
Everything, whether it be that song or any song on here, just sounds a little bit off. Like it's uncanny.
Not to bring up a record we haven't talked about, but everything that they're trying to do on this, they already did with the song Given Up.
Yeah.
When that song came out, it was like, this is weird that they're making like a traditional metal song, but it's cool because it's Chester doing his thing over it.
Yeah.
This is the same thing. It's like traditional older metal tropes, like metal from like the 80s. Like it's all those tropes, metal and punk from, its early stages, but with like terrible mixing, and also like Chester just does not sound good on it. Like I guess like from a technical standpoint, like it's not that he's like not hitting the notes or something like that, but like the way it's produced, it just does not hit. And he's not really even doing his thing over it. He's doing like an approximation of what that music is. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a Linkin Park cover band writing original music.
Yes.
Like it's exactly that.
I hate how you guys agree on that.
The most interesting thing they do on here is bring in Darian on Rebellion. I'm like, oh, it's kind of cool to see a feature that isn't explicitly vocals, because they kind of do bring in System of a Down's sound for that song for the main riff. And then they bring in Linkin Park's sound, and it kind of blends in a cool way, which got me super pumped to hear the song with Tom Morello. And I could not tell you how disappointed I was when that actually happened.
Gosh. Yeah.
One of the lowest scores I've ever given a song on this show, just because so much potential
Yeah.
in that mashup.
Yeah.
And it is just nothing.
Yes. System of a Down's sound is brought into that song. But like, why?
Now that's a good question.
There's 5 System of a Down albums. Why is Linkin Park writing a System of a Down song with the guy from System of a Down? Why? Why does that need to happen?
That's fair.
Valid.
I mean, yeah, I like it though.
That's why it's Discog Discourse and not Discog
Recourse?
Truths.
Yeah.
Truths. Yeah.
Yeah, Discog Truths.
Did you just say agree course, Jeff?
He did.
He sure did. I was gonna let that slide.
I was gonna let it go too. I was like, I might even edit that out, but now I have
Keep it
to
out.
Now I have to leave it.
Agree course.
Can we also talk about the lyrics on this album?
They're not great.
Yeah, no, we don't need to do that.
Do I need to walk you through the verse in Keys to the Kingdom?
We can find a common ground. They're not great.
The only song that I lyrically liked was Line in the Sand. And I thought Final Masquerade was all right. I think Final Masquerade is actually a great song.
I think it's solid. It's the highlight of the album.
Definitely.
But that's not saying much.
Yeah, I really don't like Case to the Kingdom. It's like when this album came out, and I hate to like keep giving you guys context, but like again, was like such a super fan of this band that like Living Things, they could do no wrong in my eyes. That's kind of how I felt going into this, especially like hearing Guilty All the Same when it came out as a single, because that was the
That was
first
like the
single from
lead
this.
single, right?
That was the lead single from the album, and I was like, this is interesting. I think the album's gonna be better. And then when I started Keys to the Kingdom, I said, I don't think I'm ever going to listen to this album. Like at that time, I started it and I was like, I think I'm done with Linkin Park for a little while. I could not believe that that was a song that they released.
That's totally fair. Keys to the Kingdom is definitely a low point.
Am I going too hard on this? Am I being too mean?
No.
No.
No, you're
No.
honestly not being mean enough, Carson.
Okay, all right. Well, get ready.
Oh.
Well, no, I'm reading the lyrics to Keys to the Kingdom again, and like there's some like just straight up lines I like don't think I can say.
The screaming in the song is so off-putting. It's so grating.
It's not
to
good
the
at
ear.
all.
Yep. Especially when you listen to like how good his screams are on A Thousand Suns and
Yes.
Living Things. It's like
Well, literally on any other album that came before it.
true. I've got to chalk up most of that to the production. Like
Yeah.
it sounds like it's his dry studio vocals. Like there are parts of it that sounds like he's singing karaoke over the instrumental.
Yeah, it's bad.
True.
Bizarre mixing
That's
choices.
fair. That's fair.
And as a return to form record, they never sounded anything like this. They were never writing gallopy riffs. They were never
Yeah.
writing Slayer riffs like the one that's on Line in the Sand.
I guess just
So
it's more in terms of the energy, Kyle was saying,
definitely,
in terms of what they're trying to get across.
yeah,
The style is
for
definitely
sure.
different. You can tell. But in terms of the energy and the rapping,
I mean, I was growing on kind of the more gritty punk feel, and so I did enjoy this quite a bit more than the previous three on my list. But I definitely understand what both you and Nathan are saying, Carson, and I agree
I
with a
just
lot of it.
don't understand how you have this higher than 1,000 Suns. Like that's the part where I'm just like,
Listen, man.
Yeah.
yeah, like I just like all
Like
right,
I
you know
said,
what?
again, I
It's not
will
Discog
be
Agree
going
course.
through it.
It's not Discog Agree course.
You're right. You're right. And that this one might come back to haunt me. But for now, that
Might,
already is.
brother.
Yeah. I'm ready to move on unless you
As
and
am
Jeff
I.
wanna defend
Oh
this.
no, let's move
Okay.
on.
No, let's move
Okay.
on. My number 3 favorite Linkin Park record is Minutes to Midnight. Jeff.
Yeah.
Jeff has it at last?
Oh boy.
That's crazy.
Literally,
I-
like at least two of Linkin Park's best songs.
I might like Jeff even more
Oh
now.
boy. Oh boy.
What do you have to say for yourself, my friend?
Dude, I don't know, man. I mean, so for me, this album is just so uneventful. You're right. There are a few songs that I really like from it. Given Up, obviously, is a song that I really, really enjoy. But then it just starts to slowly kind of regress, I guess. So you have songs like Lead It Out, which I don't like at all because there's way too much clapping.
Stop.
Way too much clapping.
Stop it.
It's overwhelming.
Stop it.
I just can't handle
Shut
it.
up.
Stop.
I don't like
That's such a funny criticism.
I just don't like it at all. The clapping is just like
Too much clapping. You gotta
and I don't like
stop.
the chorus either. I don't like the chorus. I don't like the clapping. I don't really like that song at all.
Jeff hates when planes land or
I
movies
do.
end.
Yeah.
I do. And then there's Hands Held High.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
Okay.
Oh
fair.
yeah, real big stinker.
Marching band drumming, preachy rap song. I don't know what that's doing on there.
It sounds like a Macklemore worship song.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Golly.
And then you have In Between and Pieces are just songs that I also don't like.
Shut up.
I don't.
In Pieces
I
is
don't.
cool.
I don't like them. Not catchy. The singing in these songs just really throws me off. In Between starts with some strings, but then after that, it kind of just goes away. And so the point I'm trying to make is that the songs that I do like on this album, I think they're just all right. And the songs I really don't like on this album, I absolutely despise with a passion.
Did you just say Giving Up is all right?
Yeah.
That's literally the most insane thing I've ever heard in my life.
That might be that easy top 5 song.
No.
Easy.
Yep.
No.
Easy top 2.
No.
I was about to say it might make a run for my top spot now that we're talking.
Honestly,
It's in my top 3 for sure.
without a doubt. It's amazing. The guitar riff is so good. Like, yeah, I'm sure maybe it's simple, but it's so effective.
It's awesome.
Like, riffs don't have to be super technical to be hard hitting and effective. And that bridge, that scream that is like borderline iconic at this point that Chester rips in there. Oh my gosh, dude. That gets me amped.
Breakdown is so hard, dude. That breakdown makes me want to just like be irresponsible.
I do really like the
It's
breakdown
so
on that song
good.
for sure. I do.
It's awesome.
I think that song is Chester's best performance in the discography.
Vocally, 1000%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Easy.
Sorry, Jeff.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that one. I just feel like the verses in that song just come off really nasally. I don't know. I don't love there's just something about that song that
Nasally?
it's not connecting with
He
me.
Jeff.
knows what's he supposed to do? Lose his nose?
No, I'm just saying, like, compared to the verse in that song is just particularly, like, I don't know, it just doesn't click with me.
Guys, giving up nasally, bleed it out, clapping. In between, strings that go away. God forbid songs are dynamic.
No, I said that's the good part in that song. And I'll just say the reason why I have this at the bottom below One More Light is because there are songs on here that I really, really don't like. Where on One More Light, it's just it comes and it goes, whatever, in one ear,
Sure.
out the other. But this one, it has songs that like I purposely like will skip. I will skip songs. Hands Held High, I will skip that song 100% of the time.
What else? What else will you skip?
I'm gonna dig my grave here. Okay, dude, I'd skip Bleed It Out. I'd skip In Between.
That's
I'd
crazy.
skip
That
In
is so
Pieces.
crazy.
I
Shut
would.
up. Oh my.
What, you'd also skip What I've Done?
I mean, that song's repetitive, but I like it.
But it's just all right to you.
It's all right. It's all right. No, that song I like. That's actually one of the songs that I do like on that album. It is.
Is it your top slot for like best song on the record?
Oh, I actually like No More Sorrow the best.
All right.
That's a
you know
good
what?
song.
You know what?
Yeah, that feels fine.
You know what? Jeff finally had a good take.
Thank you. Or
Jeff, I didn't know you were
you know
chill
what?
like that. Okay.
I take it back. My favorite song is actually The Little Things Give You Away.
Ooh, good song. Good
I
song.
really, really like that
You know
song.
what? I respect that. I don't agree, but I respect
Don't
it.
agree? I love that song.
Yeah, but to say Given Up is all right, and then to say you'll skip Bleed It Out, that's insanity.
2 top 10 songs.
Yeah, you're a crazy guy for that one.
Look, man, what do you want me to say? All right, what do you want me to say? I'll say it. All right. Just get me out of here.
Nothing. Jeff, I admire you got some cojones, kiddo. This is I'm impressed with this. I did not think there would be such a dog ass take in this show, but I am impressed with it. I have to respect it. I have to respect it.
We stick to our guns to a fault.
But I have to respect it. I have to respect it.
Thank you. I appreciate the respect. Listen, I feel bad. I'm definitely going to go back and listen to this one more time after. I may have to amend my rankings at some point, but that's just where I stand right now. We have it once a year. I may have to amend it,
Okay.
but that's where I stand right now.
I will say, Jeff, I agree. This album is not without its flaws. Though I like most songs on it, I do feel like the constant kind of stop and start feeling of the record where there's a ton of energy. Chester is leaving it all out on the song, and then you get to a slower energy song and a slower song, and then you come back to these hard hitters, and then you go slower, and then you come. There is a bit of whiplash, especially throughout the first half of the record, where it genuinely seems you got Given Up, and then you take it down with Leave Out All the Rest. You ramp back out with Bleed It Out, and then you back down with Shadow of the Day, and then you ramp back up with what you see what I'm saying? Like,
the pacing of this record is not very good. That's like my first big critique of it.
I do enjoy the lower energy songs and the slower songs, but when they're following, the biggest songs in the discography and some of the biggest songs in the genre, songs that shaped people's music taste, songs that are enjoyable still to this day, it is a little bit jarring.
Yeah,
for sure.
But that's my only real critique. I don't like Hands Held High, though. I will say that. That's the only song I don't really enjoy.
I really like the production on this album.
Yeah.
Coming from a Linkin Park that was very in your face and very abrasive on the albums before this, going into kind of a more stripped back, lots of tambourine, clapping, stuff like that. They kind of fill the space in a different way. It gives it a real classic feel, even though it's not really that old. And they just have some of their best tracks on here. Given Up, we've already talked about, is amazing. Bleed It Out, fantastic. What I Done is a great, slower Linkin Park song with the piano, great chorus. Everything works. And No More Sorrow is just another great hard rock track.
Yeah.
It's just a great album.
So just like initially, I will say that this album has very bad songs. 100%. I don't like Hands Held High. I'm not the hugest fan of Valentine's Day.
Same.
I'm inclined to agree.
Shadow of the Day is great if you don't think too hard about it being a Linkin Park song. I also think I heard it too much. I also don't really think it fits on this record. Leave Out All the Rest is a better version of that song. In Between's 6 out of 10 for me. I don't love In Between. But every other song on this record, I could easily put somewhere within my top 15 Linkin Park songs.
Yeah.
Like if I'm like, well, Giving Up's amazing and like that's my favorite song. And then I like think about it for a little while and I'm like, yeah, but What I've Done's like an incredible song. And like regardless of its popularity, it's like just an unreal perfect song. What I've Done is so good that they wrote it twice because they wrote a song for the second Transformers movie called New Divide, and New Divide is the same song as What I've Done.
That's facts.
That's how good What I've Done is.
But what I've done is basically the Halloween theme from the Halloween movies. Like the piano and the chord progression is like the same.
Yeah, but that's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's like a great thing to build your song around.
100%, yes. And I really, really like The Little Things Give You Away, but the song that we aren't talking about that I think is ridiculous is In Pieces. In Pieces is like a great precursor to A Thousand Suns in showcasing that like this band can kind of do anything when they really want to. It's so outside of the box with their other music. I think it's such a cool song.
I agree. I think it feels like almost like a stroke song in terms of the pacing and the guitar work.
Yeah.
And that's just
Sure.
not something that I would ever attach to Linkin Park up until this point in their discography.
The guitar solo is insane. Like the
It's
guitar solo is
awesome.
so awesome. Yeah, I mean, obviously we've talked about Giving Up a lot. Bleed It Out, I'll be the first to admit this. I think I may have a little too much nostalgia attached to Bleed It Out. Because like objectively, I'm like, that's cringe, that's cringe, that's cringe. But at the same time, I'm like, but I love this song and I learned how to play it on guitar and I know every lyric to it. So that means it's good, actually.
And that's all that matters.
Oh, okay. Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah.
Listen, man, I remember playing that song on Guitar Hero when I was like 10. So
It's the same riff over and over. It can't be that great of a Guitar Hero experience.
hey, but it's a great song.
It is a great song, yeah. Other than all the clapping.
Yeah.
Dude, it's just cringe. I don't know,
Yeah,
man.
that's
It's just
so-
kind of cringe
so-
to me. Look, listen, I'm not gonna. I don't know what
I
to say.
gotcha. I gotcha.
Look, I hate when bands find creative ways to build space and add in new percussion. I just want the kick, the snare, and the hi-hat. Just give it to me
Yeah.
straight.
Yeah.
Jangling keys? No, sir.
We don't do that here.
Clapping?
This is the last thing I'll say. I can't wait until the next time I hear What I've Done again. That's how good of a song it is. And this album, while it's not the best Linkin Park album to me, this album is such a rewarding listen. It's cool that this is the direction they went after their first two records.
They went towards a more traditional rock sound, and I think they do it really well. They said, get me away from that new metal. Speaking of, let's move into our top two records.
Yes, yes, yes.
Top two records where both of them contain new metal. So for my number two Linkin Park album, we have their sophomore record, Meteora.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
Wow.
sir.
Sweep across the board.
Guys,
Yes,
we're the
sir.
same. We're the same.
Actually
Well,
kinda
there's one
shocking.
key difference, but yeah.
There is a key difference, but for now, we are the same.
We are the
Nathan, I don't
same,
think
yes.
you've started us at all tonight. I would love to hear your thoughts on Meteora.
Yeah. This has Linkin Park's best individual songs, but as an album, it lacks some of the consistency that it needs to bump it up to number one. Because I think my number one is incredibly consistent, though it doesn't reach the highest highs that this does as frequently as this does, I guess. It only happens a couple times, but that album reaches it like once. If you're looking for the best Linkin Park songs, I would say go listen to Faint, Hit the Floor, Numb, and I really love Breaking the Habit. That has always been one of my personal favorite kind of more mellow Linkin Park songs because I think it is mellow, but it also kind of has that fast kind of breakbeat to it. It's cool. And I will also say there's a lot of nostalgia wrapped up in this album, but I think it does have a lot of tracks that have stood the test of time, like Numb, like Hit the Floor, like Faint, which is, I think Faint is their best song.
Yes.
I highly disagree.
Yeah, I also disagree.
Wow.
I will say, not to spoil anything, my favorite Linkin Park song is on this record. Ooh, yeah. And
Oh, intrigue.
it's not Faint, but Nathan, so tight that you said Faint is their best song. That is a dope take.
Very unique, too.
Yeah, yeah. No. I think it goes hard. Sorry, Nate. Keep talking. I interrupted you.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. Do you guys want my thoughts?
Well, we brought you here.
Of course.
Waiting with bated breath. I think, and I know I have 1,000 Suns in my number one, and I stand by it because I believe in it. I genuinely believe that 1,000 Suns is my number one. But Meteora is an objectively perfect album. No skips, front to back. There is not a song that I dislike on this one, like at all. Lying from You, what a track. Just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Hit the Floor, insane, man. Somewhere I Belong is like the beginning of them like writing songs like that. Like you could maybe compare it to like Crawling or something like that from Hybrid Theory, but like Somewhere I Belong is just like a perfect type of that song.
I agree.
Yeah.
Then there's like deeper cuts like Nobody's Listening and Figure 9 that I think are like just so good. Like, and Nobody's Listening, I think could maybe be written off as like, oh, we let Shinoda rap on this one, but it's so good. It like
It goes hard.
It's so
I think
much
the flow is
fun.
fantastic.
I was gonna bring that song up because I feel like that's such an underappreciated Linkin Park song. It's
Yes.
so good.
You can already see them start to stretch their creative juices and like throwing flutes in that song.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
kind of integrating it with the flow of the rapping. That's fascinating for what they had done up until this point and kind of what their mantra was.
And also the bars are hard, man. Like
Yeah.
the lyrics are tough. This album contains my favorite Linkin Park song ever. Nothing is ever going to take it out of the number one slot. Breaking the Habit is just what an incredible song. And like this is like favorite song of all time material. I truthfully mean that. I think Breaking the Habit is a beautifully written song. So interesting that this band decided to make something like that. I think it's so cool.
I think that's a sleeper hit. I think that's one of their best songs for sure.
Yeah. It is their best song in my eyes. But yeah, of course, you got Faint and Numb, like hits, man. Hits, dude.
Breaking the Habit is a top 10 pretty easily for me in their discography. But yeah, I kind of just echo what both of you guys said, but specifically Nathan of like, it's amazing when you listen through this record, how many songs you realize you know. Because I hadn't listened to this album in such a long time. And just after going through it, I'm like, oh my gosh, there are 7 songs on this record that have been etched into my soul that I forgot that I loved. And so it's fun to fall in love with these songs all over again. And the hits, the giant hits, Numb and Faint and Somewhere I Belong, it's fun.
I went back and forth with this album being my number one so many times. I even think possibly in the long run, this may surpass and become my number one just because of, like Carson was saying, how consistent this record is. I think every single song on here is at least good, if not amazing. And I think it starts off with 3 amazing songs. I love Don't Stay. I love Somewhere I Belong. I love Lying From You. I think those songs are all pretty close to top 10, if not top 5 songs. Then my favorite song on the entire album is From the Inside.
Woo! Banger.
I don't know why. There's just something about that song that like brings up an emotion. Like it's just so emotional and you can really feel it. It has such a catchy chorus. I don't know. And I love the verses. There's such something about that song that's really special to me. And then obviously Numb closing it out is just amazing. And so from front to back, this entire album is just so emotional, so many different elements happening. Every song feels different. They have distinct identities, which I think Linkin Park can sometimes struggle with. We talked about a little bit in their other albums, but I think in this album, they do such a good job of giving each song its own special moment or catchy chorus or something like that to make it really stand out. I love this album to death. It's really good.
It's been a little too long since we've had a scorching hot take, so I'll throw mine in there.
Ooh.
I mentioned that I think this album lacks a little bit of the consistency that my number one does. And I think, here we go. Don't Stay and Somewhere I Belong are both just pretty okay Linkin Park songs. Like, it very much sounds like a lot of what they've already been doing, done okay at an okay level. Like, those, nothing about those two songs in particular sticks out to me, and it's not really until we get to Lying From You where I'm like, all right, now we're cooking, now this album can hit its stride. So I had to throw that out there because things were getting a little too Discog recourse in here.
Yeah, getting a little too chummy. Although I could not disagree with you more about
Same.
Somewhere I Belong.
Well, I'm sure everyone will.
Yeah, here's the thing, Nathan, is you gotta shut up.
Yeah,
Don't Stay is
I
hard.
love that
And
song.
yeah. The
like,
turntables and Don't Stay
dude,
are awesome.
oh, the turntable scratch going into that main riff is like just a I'm like,
It's
yeah,
so
that's right, dude. Let's go. Yeah, like I don't really know how to put this into words, but I'm gonna try. Whenever any other new metal band plays into the new metal tropes as hard as this album does, it does not work. But Linkin Park sells it so well. Like, there's something about it where they're just like, yeah, you know what? Turntable scratch before the main riff. We do not care. And it's
Yeah,
so awesome. Yeah, no, Nate, you're wrong.
it happens.
I was going to bring up, did y'all listen to the reissue of this that came out this year? There's like 5 like unreleased tracks that are like officially mixed and mastered.
I went through and skimmed through them.
Are they worthless?
Well, actually, I heard Lost when it dropped as a single.
Mm.
I think Lost is like very good. I think
Yeah.
Lost,
It's a good track.
I understand why it was left off because they said that it was too similar to Numb, but I think it should have been on the record. I think that would have been really cool, and I think it could slot in after Somewhere I Belong or somewhere
Yeah.
like before Easier to Run or something like that. I thought that song was really cool. But we're not talking about that right now. We're not talking about that right now. I just thought I'd ask.
Dude, and this album, it is so early 2000s new metal.
Very.
In the best way possible.
Both of these two albums do it so well, and it's like almost like a time capsule.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
it's like, oh yeah, this was popular then, and this is the best version of
Mhm.
it. Let's take a look at that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is enjoyable. I don't really need to go listen to Limp Bizkit ever now.
Yeah.
I think that's why I connected to this band so much more than Limp Bizkit and Korn. Even though I do love those bands, there's just something about this that it's like, not to make it like clinical, but like this is like just like scientifically and objectively like the best version of what was popular at the time.
Well, and I also think, referencing Korn and Limp Bizkit, like those bands don't have the heart that Linkin Park did.
They don't have
Mhm.
Chester.
Exactly. They don't have that emotional core to resonate with.
They can do the grimy, moody stuff, but when you need power, that's why Chester made Linkin Park what they are. It's the power in the new metal.
Yeah.
He sounds unbelievable on this record. You're like,
Yeah.
how can someone do that with their body? That is crazy.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is kind of not really related to what we're talking about, but I love the way these songs are crafted from an instrumentation perspective. Like a lot of the beats, I feel like they do a really good job of blending the electronic elements with the guitars, and like the way they kind of play off of each other, I think is done really well on here. And it's just really cool to hear how they kind of implement, okay, the simple guitar riff that as soon as it comes in full is going to hit hard, but it's kind of creeping its way up through the entire verse. And it's just the tension is there, and when it releases, it's just like a bomb going off.
It's so dope, man. I like, this is a desert island record, like for sure.
It's got some phenomenal songs, but you know what else has some phenomenal songs?
Ooh, I wonder.
Yeah, what could it be? Kyle, you're number one.
Yes, my number one, Nathan's number one, Jeff's number one, and Carson's number 3. Their debut, Hybrid Theory.
There it is.
We made it.
We need to hear from Carson. I mean,
I
we got to
agree.
start there.
Yeah, Carson having it number 3.
Yeah. Before this becomes Discog Discourse, I'd like to keep it a Greek course for a minute.
Yeah.
Obviously, this record is awesome. The fact that people still love this record and enjoy this record and talk about this record in the way that they do makes me very happy because I love this record. I love it so, so much. It is permanently etched onto my soul in the same way that Meteor and A Thousand Suns are. And to a certain degree, Minutes to Midnight is. I love just about everything this record has going on with it. There are songs on this that I think are some of their best. The first time I heard One Step Closer changed my life. Like 100% changed my life. I was like, nothing's ever going to be cooler than this, like ever in my entire life. And nothing has been. Paper Cut, I remember watching the music video for Paper Cut on early YouTube, just like playing it over and over, just being like, these guys look very silly, but they're so cool. I don't understand. In the end, obviously a classic. I did that at karaoke the other night. It's my karaoke song because I can do both parts.
Flex. Crazy
Beast.
flex.
Yeah, no big deal there. With You, also like a big highlight for me. Such a cool riff. I remember learning that on guitar and it being like a big moment for me. I also wanted to highlight My December. I feel like maybe you guys will knock that song. I think that song's great.
I was planning on knocking it.
I love My December. I think it's a very cool song. Runaway, don't love it.
Really?
Very Korn-esque.
Yes. There's a lot of Corn in that one. A Place for My Head, I really like the verses. The verses are so cool on that song. The chorus does not hit for me very well. I don't really like the lyrics of that chorus. Pushing Me Away and High Voltage, I gotta be real, like are just our very first album songs. Like they are just so steeped in this like this is our first record type of cheesiness that I can't totally get behind calling this album my favorite. Also, Points of Authority has aged horribly. I really don't like that song. Forgotten, underrated banger. I think that record. I think that song's
Incredible track.
so
Yeah.
cool.
That's funny that you say that both Runaway and Points of Authority are songs you don't really enjoy because those are by far the 2 most heavily Korn songs in their discography.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But I like Korn, so
I like Corn a lot. I guess I just don't really want to hear Linkin Park do Corn. I guess
that's fair.
Um,
That's
That's fair.
definitely fair.
I want to hear Linkin Park do what they're good at. One Step Closer, what an insane song. Can you imagine writing that? Can you imagine how you would feel after writing that song? Because I can't. I assume it would be like doing ecstasy. It just sounds awesome.
Fundamental song in my music journey. Like the
1000%.
first time hearing One Step Closer, like something just clicked, and I was like, "This is amazing." The guitar riff hits, the way everything just builds and explodes over and over again. It's just one of the best aggressive Linkin Park songs, if not the best aggressive Linkin Park song.
Yeah, that song's amazing.
I was probably like 11 the first time I heard that song, like 10 or 11. And when he does the shut up when I'm talking to you part, I was like, you can't do that. That's crazy.
Same, honestly. I heard that song so young, and I was like, "Bro, he can't say that," and he says it so many times.
Oh, it's so
It's awesome.
Imagine writing that song and bringing it in, and then someone's like, "Yo, we should throw some massive turntables in the bridge," and it making it that much better.
oh
Yeah.
man.
You mentioned With You. I think that song is also very great. Like all the little production elements they throw over, like that main riff with the synth and everything. It's just chef's kiss.
So cool.
Just phenomenal. Like the pre-chorus in that song, it's like a brick wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the best song on this record is "Paper Cut" by a pretty far margin.
Yeah, I think that's a great track. One of many great tracks.
Yeah, I mean, that song makes me want to do something.
What is it though?
I don't know, dude. Like literally, what I think of when I listen to that song is fully jumping, like stomping on a school desk. So
Uh-huh.
I don't know if that's some
Okay.
deep seated thing, but
Yeah. I think you'll need some Discog counselor.
yeah, Discog therapy. That's where I'm headed next, boys.
I I think what's so crazy about that song is like that's first song, first album, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Like
Nuts.
can't even imagine like what it was like to hear that song in the year 2000 because like obviously I discovered this band later in the year 2000. I was 4 years old, but it's such a ballsy opening track and I mean it's not even really trying to be. It's just like this is objectively amazing music that these people have written.
Now we talked about Giving Up as having some of Chester's best screams, but I'd also put forth By
I was
Myself.
gonna say that, dude.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
One of my favorites.
Chester just going absolutely nuts.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Like the riff itself violating. Chester
Yeah.
screaming over it, it's over. Like
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
nothing you can do about it.
No, that song's messed up, dude. Like, ugh, what a song.
The periodic scream outbursts are so satisfying.
Yeah, it's deranged.
It is. It's lovely.
And they really only do it on this record, and they maybe do it a little too much, like the like Mike and Chester back and forth in the chorus. It's they not to say they don't do it on Meteor. It's just like this album, it's nearly every song. And like by myself is like an example of it just like working perfectly in harmony. It's like, oh, there's a reason for them to have two guys with a microphone.
yeah, yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, and I mean, we didn't even talk about Crawling or In the End, which are just iconic.
Yeah.
Yeah, all-time classics.
Yeah, two
Crawling's a
more
classic,
literal
man.
classics.
Like what could we say about them that hasn't been said already? But I mean, unreal
Yeah.
songs.
Great
How do,
songs.
how do you write songs that good on your first
Dude,
album?
I feel like it's easy to forget that those songs are on this album too, given that they're so iconic, like
Yeah.
so almost like beyond the culture in a way.
I mean, how do you make a song trend 23 years after you released it? Like Crawling
Exactly.
was in the last couple years. Like,
And that's why I had to
goodness
put this number
gracious.
one. It almost felt like wrong in a way to put it anywhere else but number one, just given how many iconic songs are on here, and the fact that this was their first out. Like it's just insane what they were able to do.
Hear that, Carson?
Listen, and I understand that. And again, like I thought a lot about this. I was like, you know what? I'm going on a show that a lot of people like. I'm going on a show that I like. I am not going to be a contrarian a-hole. And in my opinion, I was not, but I get it.
No, no,
Yeah.
I
Yeah, that
totally
was
I
quite a
totally
ride.
understand where you're coming from. And like my opinion of this record is just that like they looked at everything that worked on this and then they were like, "Well, what if we just made a record that was all the good stuff?" And that's what Meteora is to me, is like a refined version of this. Like I said, like I don't think High Voltage is a very good song. I don't even think it should be on the record.
Yeah, that's a bad
Um,
track. Luckily, it is a bonus track though. So
is it?
The original release ends up pushing me away.
Oh, yeah, and Pushing Me Away is also just okay to me. Like
It is one of the few lower points on the album.
yeah, so I mean, no matter what ending you're choosing for the record, it's kind of
Yeah,
like
that's fair.
I don't know. So I just think Meteor is a little bit more refined, and A Thousand Suns is a movie. So and I like movies. Those are my thoughts on it.
There you
boys,
go.
we made it.
My number 7 Linkin Park album is The Hunting Party. My number 6 is One More Light. My number 5 is Living Things. My number 4 is Minutes to Midnight. My number 3 is Hybrid Theory. My number 2 is Meteora. And my number 1 is A Thousand Suns.
That was perfect.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for giving us so much of your time tonight.
Oh, yeah, man.
This was a blast. We loved having you on.
Oh, thank you. I hope I did all right.
Dude, you killed it.
If you've made it this far, thank you so much for listening. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow, all of that jazz, because next month will be our very special Halloween episode covering a band that a lot of you have been asking for a long time. So you're not going to want to miss it. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we will